The talks regarding reaching a ceasefire in Gaza come amid a strike on the Holy Family Church in the Palestinian Strip. How does Barbara Leaf assess these developments?
So indeed, it was a terrible tragedy, the strike on the Holy Family Church in Gaza, and we've heard the Israeli government, the Prime Minister himself, extend his apologies and regret over that incident. Look, notwithstanding the loss of life, the injuries, the destruction, it is really critical to reach such an agreement. It is always difficult. It is never easier. This event doesn't make it easier, doesn't make it more difficult. The fact is, people are dying every day, and the hostages themselves are in great peril.
What are the obstacles standing in the way of a ceasefire in Gaza?
So the same set of friction points or obstacles are there every the two opposing sets of goals that are not aligned. And indeed, I would argue Hamas should not be the organization or the people at the table to decide what comes after the conflict, who governs Gaza, who secures Gaza, how Gaza is rebuilt. I don't think the people of Gaza particularly want Hamas deciding that. And that's part of the problem right now.
Is Barbara Leaf optimistic about reaching an agreement in Gaza, especially after U.S. envoy Adma Bowler's statements?
I am naturally an optimist, but my optimism has been very depressed by the conflict itself and by the difficulty of reaching these agreements to bring people home and to bring relief to the people of Gaza. So I'm happy to hear that Adam Bowler feels that they're really, really close. But until you get to that final 5 feet, the final 5 feet to the end, to the finish line, can seem like 500 feet.
How does Barbara Leaf assess the events in southern Syria and the role of the new Syrian authorities in handling the ongoing situation?
There's no question that the events of the past week, including today, are horrifying. And indeed, the government in Damascus failed in its responsibilities, the protection of all Syrians, but most especially those communities that are most vulnerable and that live side by side with other communities where they have had recent or historic disagreements or has felt the pressures of a personal disputes or what have you. Let's remember, these events started with a single criminal act a week ago, a hijacking of a truck going to Damascus with fruits and vegetables, and the kidnapping of the driver. It exploded, it escalated violently with speed and ferocity. And the government indeed could not get its hands around the situation fast enough. I find it the most ironic and tragedy that people who survived 13 years of civil war were killed in this past week in a civil strike.
What is Washington's responsibility in the current phase in Syria?
So Washington is right now very intensively engaging with regional partners and the Syrian government itself to push things towards a de-escalation. The Jordanians are very involved, and perhaps no country knows the southern terrain politically and socially and in security terms like the Jordanians. This is their neighborhood. So they're very engaged in trying to calm things and to mediate. The Saudis are engaged with Washington. I am certain they are engaging directly with the Shah himself. The Turks are engaged, Qataris. So all of this is to bring an end to the fighting, to get a formal ceasefire, and especially to manage such that Israel does not return to a kinetic response. You're not going to be able to solve the problems between the Druze and the Bedouin communities by air power or military outside. This requires hands-on political negotiations.
Does the Trump administration have the ability to influence an end to the fighting?
Yes. If we're talking about its relationship with Israel, absolutely. And we've seen, in fact, the administration speak very clearly to the point that Washington does not support or approve of a military approach by Israel to settling these problems. And indeed, we know that there are multiple channels that Israel and Syria, that the two governments have. That's where they should be discussing their security arrangements. But in terms of the protection of the Druze or any other de-escalation, that has to be done on the ground. And Shaddai can be assisted by other neighbors like the Jordanians, but he's got to show himself that he is in the game.
Does Washington support federalization in Syria?
I don't think that this is an issue of deciding at this moment, this week or next week, the future configuration, political configuration of Syria. These issues among and between communities have festered and have been aggravated and have been made so much worse by both the civil war, but also 5 decades of the Assad family, father and son, who did everything they could to set Syrian communities against each other, one against the other. There's huge mistrust. The future form of Syria, whether it's a federated system or something else, is going to be something that will have to be put to the Syrian public. And that is not the issue today.
Can Syrians really protect themselves amid current challenges?
It is realistic. That is what Syrians fought and died for 13 years, to rid themselves of the curse of the Assad regime. So they have an opportunity for the first time in 5 decades to set their course. I didn't say it was going to be easy. In fact, it's going to be hugely difficult. This is a traumatized society with deep mistrust all across the. But what do Syrians want first and foremost? They want security. That is the responsibility of the government, working in tandem with local communities. They must show that they will work in tandem. And the Shara made the start, I would say, of a movement in that direction, by saying that he would put together a committee, that he would look to the elders, the leaders of the Druze community to be a part and parcel of defining their security needs.
Are the current events affecting Washington's stance regarding Syria's integration in the international community?
No, peace does not get delivered in 1 day or 2 days or 1 week or 1 month. It is a slow, long process. And in this terrain that has seen such suffering for 13 years, there is more instability and insecurity than there is peace. Nonetheless, the administration seems committed to doing its part, allowing and asking regional states to do their part, and they can play a very big and constructive role in that sense.
How does Barbara Leaf assess the situation of minorities in the Middle East?
I would say when I look across the Middle East, and right now we're just talking about the Levant, but across the Middle East, including in Iraq, including in Libya, everywhere in this fragile region, you have these minority communities who are under extraordinary pressure and who are extraordinarily vulnerable. A country at peace with itself, peace with its neighbors, that's what we want in Syria, what we want in Iraq. But these are countries that have gone through terrible decades, being at war with their neighbors, being at war with their own citizens. And who suffers most in such conditions? Minority communities, always. And they are blamed for things. They are pushed and pressured to take sides. So yes, they are terribly vulnerable.